we have one person here, so that's my cue that this is in fact going up as a live stream. So I'll just wait another few seconds just to make sure. Okay, now we've got three. Hello, everyone. This is November 7th, 2023. Uh, it's a Tuesday night, so I will usually do something on Tuesday nights and Thursdays if I have a chance. This Thursday, I will not have a chance. I'll be out with some friends. Actually, probably through most of the weekend. I might be able to do some live streams, some uploads where I am. I'm not sure. They'd probably just be just kind of quick notices of one sort or another, if anybody's interested. Okay. Hey Debbie, how you doing? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. I hope you're doing okay. Hope everything's all right. And everybody else that's coming in too. Dan Schramm, is that the right? Ev Drayton, Rebecca Ann, Tony Blassetti. Hi Tony, how you doing? Julie Autem. All righty. And of course, I could say hi to all of you if I had the time, and if you all weren't sitting there waiting for something to go on. Lieutenant Colonel, all accounted for and present, sir. Not a sir anymore, but okay, I appreciate that. All right, serious times, serious times. If you all have been following me over the last little while, you know I've been talking a lot about the Edom, right? The utterly destroy or extermination that is being practiced right now in a certain part of the world. You'll have to forgive me for being somewhat surreptitious and circumspect tonight. You'll have to understand that the subject matter that I'm going to cover could have this taken down if I was forthright, if I were forthright. And I can't be for that reason. So if you're not familiar with some of the subject matter I'm going to talk about tonight, go back and look at the last two or three live streams that I put up, like my explanation of who Netanyahu is, what his name means, the Kerem, which I did as well, which means utter destruction or extermination. I've done those videos trying to explain some of the things that are going on, particularly in the Middle East right now, which is really affecting the whole world, even much more so than the war between Russia and Ukraine. So this is going to be very touchy. There's some things I can't say because obviously the algorithms and the human people that listen to me and are just waiting to jump and take down the live stream or take it down later, we'll look for the opportunity, especially on this subject. So if you don't understand everything that I'm explaining tonight, go back and look at those last few live streams that I've been talking about, okay? All right. It's really tragic what we're seeing and the religious excuses going back 4,000 years to destroy a people. And unfortunately, for the one side that thinks that, well, both sides are wrong, okay? And you know who I'm talking about. Both sides are wrong. I guess I could say it this way: the Israelis and Hamas, not the Palestinians as a whole, but the Israelis, and not all Israelis either. I mean, that's not true either. As a matter of fact, a lot of Jews are against what they see going on over there, and a lot of Israelis are. There's a great deal of chaos in Israel right now. Netanyahu is actually a criminal, and he's trying to hold on to power, and he's doing that, and unfortunately, the West is going to assist him in doing that, much to the detriment of not only Israel and the West, but of the entire world, actually, in the long run. But it's the prevailing religious fanaticism, or at least blaming it on religion from 3 to 4,000 years ago, blaming their actions on both sides from what's occurred throughout that time period. At least that's the excuse. And those excuses are used to snuff out the lives of people on both sides that is actually in violation of that commandment that I talked about some time ago, lo ratzak, which means do not murder the innocent or the righteous. So that's why war is so bad. And I talked about that. I won't go into any details. But for people to be saying now that it's justifiable to kill men, women, and children who inhabit a land, which I'm going to talk about here with Amalek here in just a minute, who inhabit a land or are a part of a people, that because they're there, that it's justified to kill them wholesale, is not justified under Torah at all. There were specific circumstances, as I've talked about several times, and those specific circumstances I even question about what was really going on. For instance, uh, it says that the scriptures say that to the Israelites that they are to utterly wipe out the remembrance of Amalek, and that transformed into extinction. But you'll remember in the story of Moses, and you all should know where I'm going here by now, right? In the story of Moses, he was a prince of Egypt. As a matter of fact, he was going to become Pharaoh. And when he revealed himself as a Hebrew and they exiled him, the Pharaoh exiled him, his name was removed from everything in Egypt. That's the storyline. The name Moshe was removed from Moses was removed from everything in Egypt. So that's basically taking out all remembrance of Moses. It didn't mean they killed him. I guess you could say they killed his reputation until he came back later and did his thing. But I find the interpretation of extermination to it doesn't sit well. I'm not saying that wicked people don't deserve judgment. I'm not saying it. And a lot of the Canaanites were really bad, as I've talked about before. And not just the Canaanites, but of course the Edomites as well, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. And I don't want to get into too much detail, like the fact that Edomites cannot join Israel until the third generation after repentance. There are all kinds of things as far as what the scriptures say are the parameters for Edom coming back into the fold. And we're going to get into some of that here. But yeah, first to be canceled. Hi, Debbie. How you doing? Yeah, he was canceled. Yeah, he sure was. First to be canceled. Yeah. What do they call cancel culture? Yeah, exactly. So I've really gotten on to the rabbis and the evangelical ministers and a lot of Christians, even the Muslims, on this whole idea of exterminating your enemy. Uh, they, even in the basics of their own holy writ, there's a thing called charity. There's a thing called chesed in Hebrew, loving kindness, as I explained about Abraham. But that's always forgotten, so that they can justify doing these really horrible, horrible things to other people, not just armed men who are in battle, or women for that matter, which is a travesty. That should never happen except in extreme self-defense. But personally, not as a nation, and you all know how I feel about that. Any nation that puts their women out on the battlefield is a nation not worthy of defense. Okay, and I've said that before. Call me sexist if you want, but I'm going to stick to it because I know my stuff. Okay, but at any rate, to kill unarmed men, women, and children, and to slaughter them and exterminate them by either side is wrong. And Israel right now is saying, well, gee, we're doing all this to Gaza, but they deserve it, just like when you guys bombed Dresden. Well, Dresden was wrong, okay? For the Allies, principally the British, to bomb Dresden, Germany, it had no military significance whatsoever, and they killed about 100,000 men, women, and children in a horrible way. Then, of course, you've got Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and you've got other examples, too, the fire bombings of Tokyo, et cetera, et cetera. The killing of innocents, there's no forgiveness for it. You're going to have to, even if you're in the military doing your duty, you kill an innocent, righteous person, and the judgment will come back on you, and you will have to pay the price. I'm sorry, Christ isn't going to help you. Okay? That's the way it is. That's why war is so bad. All right, well, let me get to what my subject matter is tonight. Of course, I'm finding great fault with the attitudes of the Israelis. And even not so much the Muslims, although what Hamas did on October 7th was horrendous, was by and large murder by and large. People like Scott Ritter saying it was a great military operation. Well, when you specifically target unarmed men, women, and children, I don't consider that a military operation. So I disagree with Scott on that, and Colonel McGregor for that matter. I understand where they're coming from, but I don't subscribe to it, and it's wrong. Okay. As far as our information that we know of now, a lot, yeah, 7 hours for the IDF to respond. Yeah, I realize that. Apparently, a lot of the people, and this was twisted apparently quite a bit by the IDF and the Israeli government, that that Hamas actually pulled the trigger on all those people that died. We now know that a lot of Israelis died because of the direct response by untrained IDF and militia, basically, local police, etc., just spraying the whole area, thinking everybody needs to die. And some of the buildings that they said that Hamas destroyed could not have been destroyed with the weapons that Hamas had. It really would have taken something like a tank to do that. So, in other words, the first casualty of war is truth. And the bottom line that I'm saying is, you kill the innocent, unarmed men, women, and children, and you've committed lo ratzak. Ratzak. You've committed the murder of the innocents and the righteous, and there is no forgiveness for it. You will pay that price one way or another. No justification, even though in this particular instance that we have now, and I talked about this before, the Israeli government has come out and said that they're justified in destroying all of the Palestinians, men, women, and children, because they voted in Hamas. Well, and as I pointed out, well, then we voted in, they could say that all our people voted in Biden, so are all of us responsible for the evil that our government does? That's hypocrisy, and that's outrageous. We have very little control over our governments, okay, whether they're democratic or not. But anyway, those are all philosophical things and political things that are kind of a little off the subject, not too much, but just enough that I'm going to move on to what brought me to this point here. I cannot put the video up that I am responding to. There's nothing in the description box. I can't show it to you because I don't know where it came from. I don't know who these people are. I don't know what kind of copyrights there might be involved in that. But I'm going to kind of talk you a little bit around what happened, okay? On my Twitter line, for those of you who follow me on Twitter or X now, and I've told you, I said, really, even if you don't want to be on X, I would really encourage you to open an account there, because then you'll be able to, you don't have to talk to anybody. Just look at what's being posted, especially on my account, on Scott Ritter's account, on the Duran's account, on Brian Berletic's account, on Tucker Carlson. You get the idea, right? There are people worth getting information from. The Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal, people like that. They're really worthwhile getting information from, because they're giving you things that the mainstream media will not. And we all know the problem with the mainstream media. So at any rate, I was sent this thing and asked to give my opinion on it. And again, I can't show it to you, but I'm going to talk a little bit about it. I'm not even going to say where it came, who got it, and who put it up, and what they and who they are, because even that could cause a problem for me here, because that particular person has been banned from YouTube, and I suspect that even mentioning his name, and I don't agree with him on 100%. Of course I don't. I don't agree with anybody 100%, I don't think, not even myself. But at any rate, to even mention his name or his account, his program, would be a problem. So I can't even do that tonight. But no, it's not AJ. No. Let me go ahead and read this. I've got to, now I'm not gonna really follow the chat tonight. I've got my computer here, but that's only because I want to read what I responded to on this subject on X. So I received this, and the person that sent it to me will know who they are. I'll tell you this much, okay? So you can go look at it if you're on X. First of all, I put this post up on November 6th, okay? So you could go look at this thread if you want on my timeline, on my X line. I did it on November 6th, and of course you'll see if you follow me on X that I'm on there all the time. As I said, I do a lot of my work on there. I get a lot of my information, and then I verify it, and then if I think it's significant like this, I'll give it to you. But again, I cannot refer to the YouTube. I don't even know if it was a YouTube. It wasn't a YouTube. It was from another site where they could put up this video and not have it taken down. Okay, which it probably wouldn't have been anyway, except for the person who put it up. But enough of that. So I got this. This is from Horse Sense on my X account. Horse Sense. It's at horse horsies 37779424. Okay, and I'm sure he or she is here right now. And basically, what this person asked was, I'm sure you saw this, Roy. May I get your take on this so-called rabbi, most likely a lawyer? And what it is, it's a video of a Jewish rabbi justifying what's happening right now, basically. Okay, and he goes through some things, and really, some of it has merit, and I told this person that you'll see that, and a lot of it's twisting the truth, twisting the history. So let me read you at least what I responded to, and I'm sorry I can't put the video of the rabbi up or what account it came from. Okay, I can't do it. So you'll just have to go to my X account and see what this is all about. Again, I put this up on November 6th. All right, and this is my answer to this person that asked me to comment. Interesting. I might dissect this in a YouTube video. We'll see. Much of what he says, this rabbi, has merit, but he conveniently ignores what happened at the Council of Yavna in about 90 AD, when his rabbinic Judaism was formed, and from that, Talmudic Judaism. Eventually, the medieval Kabbalistic Jews formed their mystical expansions of the Talmud and Torah, which I call a Golem synthesis. I gave it that name. I don't have much respect for the Talmud, as you can probably. A lot of good things in there, but there are a lot of bad as well. And I've said that there's hardly a hair's breadth difference between the Talmud, which is basically where they explain the Noahide laws, and Sharia law. Okay, there's hardly a hair's breadth difference. So, present-day Judaism is itself a synthesis and is not pure. On the Edomite issue, that means this rabbi, tries to equate Christianity with Edom. This is very important so that you understand where you really stand if you're a Christian, or especially a white Christian, from the Talmudic perspective. Okay, it's very important. But I got to be circumspect the way I talk about it. Let me read this again. On the Edomite issue, he tries to equate Christianity with Edom. He ignores the fact of history that the Herodians, whom the Jews hold in high regard even today, were Edomites. That's King Herod, the one that, in his line, that ruled over the Judeans under Rome. Okay, they were all Edomite Arabs. Yet they're considered Jews to this day. And they are the real people in Jesus' time who said there are those who are Jews who are not. Right? He wasn't talking about real Judahites. He was talking about these Edomite Arabs in his day. Okay? And some of the Greeks as well. Yeah, I know I have an Odyssey thing, and I could have done this on Odyssey, but then not enough people see it. So you'll just have to read between the lines. Okay, let me finish doing this, okay? So, on the Edomite issue, he tries to equate Christianity with Edom. He ignores the fact of history that the Herodians, whom the Jews hold in high regard even today, were in fact Edomites. Trying to pin that on Rome is likely too far, other than that Rome installed the Herodians over Judea. Again, I mentioned King Herod. So the Jews actually were mixed with the Edomites against the commandment, not to mix with the Edomites. Not the Christians. Let me say that again. So the Jews actually were mixed with the Edomites. The Christians didn't. The early Messianic Jews did not mix with the Edomites, the Herodians, who are the Messianic Jews like those of Qumran. Okay, those are those early Christians, those Messianic Jews. Without going into further detail, he is simply trying to put forth Jewish supremacy. It's funny, we hear about white supremacy all the time, don't we? We don't hear about any other people trying to be the supremacists, right? That's convenient because of what people are trying to say, and you'll see that here. So again, further detail, he is simply trying to put forth Jewish supremacy in different terms. Yes, he is likely a lawyer. Okay, I put that up in answer to Horse Sense and his question, her question, whoever that is. Uh, Yesterday is when I put that up, November 6th, and I did quite a bit on that, okay? I'm going to go ahead and do one more thing here. Okay, so pardon me just for a second while I do this. All right. Oh, what's this? By the way, I'm being censored really bad. If anybody has noticed, supposedly on X, they're not supposed to be doing that anymore. But man, there's no doubt that I'm being shadow banned. They say that the new CEO of X says, you have freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. That's an understatement. It's gotten really bad. So if you want to see what I'm talking about on a regular basis, really, you do have to go. Did Eve have twins? That's out of the subject here tonight. Let's stay on the subject, okay? I really, you've got to not ask questions off the subject matter. If you want to ask what I'm talking about here, that's all right, but we're not going to go into anything else, okay? It's very important. All right, I'm just not going to do it tonight. So if you ask a question off topic, sorry, I ain't answering you. This is critical information, and it it could get me thrown off YouTube if I don't do it just right. Okay, so you're just going to have to hold off. All right, let me pull these up so we can at least see what's going on here. All right, take it away. All righty. Okay, so there we are. So now I can look at this if I need to in a few minutes. Let me put it down. And I'm going to need a real quick swig of water. That's what this is. It's not gin. It's not vodka. Okay, it's just water. This may seem like a religious discussion tonight, and it has, of course, some religious tones to it, obviously. But it really has to do with what's going on in the Middle East and how you are viewed by the people who inhabit Tel Aviv. All right? You. In the Old Testament, there are several places where it talks about the Amalekites. Just a real quick summary. What happened is that when Israel was traveling through the deserts, especially through the Negev and that area where they were trying to get to Canaan, to the Promised Land, the Amalekites basically caused them a lot of trouble. Roosevelt, are you the real Roosevelt? Hey, Roosevelt, I haven't seen you forever. All right, good. Nice to see you back. I needed a good, a good mod here tonight. I imagine probably. And Jesse's here too. Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate both of you being here. I've lost most of my other mods for various reasons, which I won't get into. But anyway, so the Amalekites basically were interfering with Israel, and they even wanted to destroy Israel. Okay, and the Amalekites, from all that we can find out about them, they were probably involved in some very, very bad evil practices, as I said before. I'm not saying there's proof of that, but that's probably a situation. There were things like child sacrifice, other moral decadent type things and they worshiped gods, which they shouldn't have been because they were descended from Esau, which I'm going to get into here in a minute. So why did they move over and start worshiping these false gods and doing these horrible things, which could pollute the Israelites if they mingled with them, which is really the reason originally that supposedly God, I think there's some problems with the translation and from the story, but supposedly God told the Israelites to destroy them utterly, which I talked about the other day with Harem, which means extermination or utterly destroy them, men, women, children, livestock, everything. I'm not sure about that story, as I mentioned at the beginning of this. Taking away the remembrance of Amalek would be the same thing as taking away the remembrance of Moses. In other words, not killing them, but you just don't discuss them anymore. They're just outside. Everything about them you just ignore. But people that are bloodthirsty and want to steal things want to talk about killing people. All right, I'll just leave it at that for right now. So that's the story of Amalek. And then what happens further down the line in Samuel, the king of the Amalekites, Saul is told to go and destroy the Amalekites. He doesn't destroy everybody. He lets the king stay alive, and some of the booty they take. And as a result of that, King Saul loses his throne, and David eventually comes up. So there's all these things to say the Amalekites are these terrible, terrible people that deserve utter extinction. Well, I'm going to talk about some things here, and I've already alluded to a little bit of it. Edom and Amalek. Edom is another name for Esau. Esau was the firstborn son of Isaac. So he's a Shemite. All right? Esau is a Shemite. One day he's out hunting and he comes back and he's famished. Most of you know the story. And Jacob was cooking some red pottage. Red means there's meat in it, I guess. Red. As a matter of fact, Edom, which we're going to get into in a minute, and Edom mean red, which has some very important explanations as to why the Jews hate you today. Okay, and a lot they do in the Talmudic aspect of it. And there's, again, I'm not putting the Islamists aside. There are problems there too, even though it says to protect the people of the book. In the Quran, there's some other overtones that show up later, and I don't want to get into that. But, and I've already said something I shouldn't have. But at any rate, so Isaac was actually the second. As a matter of fact, the scripture says that Esau was born first, and he was all ruddy. He was all red all over. Okay. Which means something. And then Jacob had a hold of his heel as he came out. But Esau was the firstborn. Okay, they were twins. Both are Shemites. Now, Esau being real red, Jacob probably was too. And what does that mean? It means that you could see the flush in their face. Red meaning that you could see the blood capillaries and stuff. In other words, like me, actually, right? Out in the sun, especially, you can kind of see a reddish, idea on Caucasians, and a lot of people get upset for me talking about this because there's all sorts of indication of people that want to talk about the Hebrews and who they really were and all that. Well, it says right here they're ruddy, they're red faced. In other words, they're basically light skinned. Okay. That's what Edom means. You can see the redness in the face. And he was particularly red, probably, not like red, but probably from the difficulty of the birth, okay? But he stayed pretty red all of his life. In other words, quite fair, quite ruddy. That's who Edom is. It's Esau. Amalek descended from Esau, Edom. He's one of Esau Edoms. That Esau was also named Edom, which means redness as well. Okay, he descended from Esau, but what happened was on the day that Esau ate the porridge and sold his birthright, gave his birthright to Jacob in exchange for the porridge, and I've talked about that before. He sold his birthright. Whether it was by trickery or whatever, that doesn't matter. We're just going to stick with the story. Okay, the real problem is after that, Esau married two Hittite women, Judith and Bashemat, I guess is how you say her name. The Hittites were forbidden. They were part of the Canaanite people that the Israelites were told not to mingle, and Abraham's seed were told not to mingle with. Okay, and Esau did. So not only did he sell his birthright to Jacob, as the story goes, whether you want to accept that being legitimate or not, that's a whole other issue, trickery or whatever and all that with Isaac and all that. But he sold his birthright then, and then against the commandment to Abraham's seed, Esau went and married these two Hittite women, and that's where Amalek comes from. He is descended from Esau and these Hittite Canaanite women. All right, let's go through a few things here, okay, now that you got the basic storyline. Again, Amalek's hated by the Israelites, and the Israelites were told to utterly destroy them, okay? Why? And there were some other groups of people in the land of Canaan that they were also told to utterly destroy. And again, you can take it verbatim, you can take it literally, but I think there's more to it than that, especially with this idea of wiping out the remembrance of somebody. Just means like the situation with Moses. You just don't give them any credence anymore. It's kind of like an excommunication, not really a death. I'm not saying that that wasn't how it was done as far as killing people, because they obviously did, and they want to do it today. Okay, let's go through a few things. Edom. One of the problems that we have right now is that when you look at this thing that this rabbi talked about, he talked about Edomites, and he basically says that the Western nations are the Edomites, and specifically Amalek, who deserve utter extinction. I didn't say it, they say it. Okay? It's in the Talmud, it's in the Torah, and then they take Amalek and they basically put that curse of Herem, that means utter destruction, utter extinction, onto you because you're descended from them, and they're supposed to destroy everything about Amalek, which is a total twisting and lie. Okay? And I could spend a lot of time explaining why, but that's a fact. I had this one guy say, "Oh, I've studied Torah for years, and you've got it wrong. You know, Amalek and the Amalek spirit needs to be totally wiped out from the earth." And you're forgetting about Lo Ratzak, that person that sent that. Okay, so Edom can technically mean whites, which is how a lot of the rabbis explain this. Okay, whites. Now, in ancient Hebrew, in the time of the Israelites, there were basically those who were ruddy white, and they were described that way, or they were black, meaning all the other races, all not just blacks as blacks, but even the Arabs. Okay, as far as the different categories of people, there were the ruddy whites, and then there were everybody else who were meaning black, meaning that they had color to their skin. Okay, I mean, did not submit to the poison, Deborah Hart. But the Ashkenazi are white, yes, because they stole an identity. And I can't say too much more than that. And you know what I'm talking about, Roosevelt. I can't say much more than that here, okay? All right. So that's how they look at it, all right? Now, I could get into the movement of the Ashkenazi. I can get into the place, I'm not even sure I should say it here, what Ukraine is in that area, where a lot of these people that are in Israel now came from, despite the fact that they deny it. Read between the lines. I just don't want to get taken down before I get to this thing, okay? So let me show you. Edom is spelled the same way as Adam, the first father, okay? Eve's husband. It's spelled the same way. They're slightly different vowels, but it means the same thing. Of course, Adam means, the first man, red or ruddy. Edom is spelled the same way, slightly different vowels. Adam is how you actually say this. Edom is how you say this one here. Okay, so the vowels are slightly different. Of course, like anything, like with red, the color red, or red meaning you're reading something, the vowels further define what it is. But these consonants are still important, because what it shows is that Edom, Esau, was still a member of Adam's family, legitimately. Even though he gave up his birthright, he was still a Shemite. He was still from Adam. All right? All right. Red ruddy, Edom is Esau. As I said, he married 2 Hittite women when he was 40 years old, which then took him further out of the line of being able to inherit from Isaac or Israel, Jacob or Isaac. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, okay? So instead of it going to Esau, it went to Jacob, all right? So the vowels are slightly different. Well, from Edom, Esau, Amalek is his grandson, okay? Interesting thing happens here, and I have to get to the Hebrew so that you see some other points. This is how you spell Amalek in Hebrew, right here. This is Ayin, Mem, Lamed, and geez, I'm having a brain cramp here. The kuf. I almost said the calf, because there's one that's a calf too, and I'm going to show you that here in a minute. What this means is we can break this down in the Tarkon, as you know that I always do, and I could get down to the very singular letters and what it means, but I want to break it down this way for you today. I'm going to divide that word right here in the middle. Means people, Okay, means people, and it sounds a lot like mother, but means people. Lek there are two forms of lek. There's lek with the kuf, and there's lek with the calf, which is what I have down here. There's a chapter in in the Torah called Lek Leka, and it means go away. In other words, it's when Abraham was told to leave Sumer and to depart there. That's where Lek Leka comes from. It means to go away. So it's kind of like instead of taking, it means to gather up your stuff and leave. Okay, Lek Leka. But they're very close in their meaning. They mean almost the same thing. So Lek Leka means to go, gather your things together and leave, and it's spelled with a kaf, not a kuf. But the Amalek name is spelled with a kuf. Wow. Well, there are two things that are going on here. What Amalek means is the people who take. In other words, people who remove what belongs to you. They're kind of thieves, okay? They'll even try to take everything from you. That's kind of what the idea means. It almost means subversion. The people who will knock you on the back of the head and take you. Because lamed is a flail or a whip or a weapon, very similar to a zayin, a sword. And hoof is the back of the head. So what is the best way to rob somebody? Knock them on the back of the head so they don't see you coming. So there's some deceit involved here. Okay, there's some really nasty activity that's happening. So it means the people that knock you on the back of the head and take from you. And that goes along with the Amalekites when they subverted Israel as they were traveling, okay, through the land. That's where the idea comes from. I doubt that there was this Amalek name was probably something to describe him rather than actually being his name, because this wouldn't apply if I'm sure the mother wouldn't call him somebody who would a people that would knock you on the back of the head to steal from you. I think this was probably part of the story that was added later. What his real name was, I have no idea. Anyway, because of what the Amalekites did, according to the scriptures, that the Israelites were to utterly destroy the Amalekites, men, women, children, all their livestock, not take any of their booty and all that kind of stuff. And that's the harem that I talked about back a few days ago on a video here. You can go back and look at it. It's called the harem. And it's spelled like this, and I told you basically what it means is to utterly destroy or exterminate. And that's what is happening to the Palestinians today. Can the Palestinians be Amalekites? Well, by definition, you have Isaac, and then you have Ishmael. Ishmael is the father of the Arabs, that group of people. Okay, Isaac is the continuation of the Hebrew line. They're both Shemites. A lot of people will say, well, if you're against the Jews, you're an anti-Semite, or if you criticize them, you're an anti-Semite. Well, the Arabs are Semites. A lot of us are Shemites. Okay, so the pejorative that they use to try to shut you down, saying you're an anti-Semitic, well, the Palestinians are Semitic. The Arabs are Semitic because they're descended from Ishmael. Okay, now according to the scriptures, they've lost some of their rights to birthright because they intermarried with the Hittites as Esau did. But Esau himself was still a Shemite. That doesn't change. And his descendants were part Shemite, one way or the other, right? Because Ishmael was a Shemite too, because his dad was Abraham, even though his mother was Hagar, supposedly an Egyptian slave. But that Egyptian slave, she was probably actually a Hebrew, as I've explained. Those Egyptians at that time, up through and including the time of Moses, were Hyksos, who were actually Hebrews in northern Egypt. But at any rate, that's another story as well. So what they've said now, and this answers this thing where this rabbi goes through all this information. He says it's justified that you utterly kill, annihilate, exterminate anybody that wants to destroy you. Well, that's a hell of a thing, right? Especially when you consider the commandment of lo ratzak, do not kill the innocent or the righteous. The problem with all this now is that they use this harem of the Amalekites, the commandment to destroy Amalek, and they push that off to anybody who disagrees with them or who wants to survive and not put up with their rule. I could go back to the Balfour Declaration. I could go back to what happened in 1947, 48. We could talk about the Rothschilds buying the land, the Turks having the land, and then selling it to different people. We can talk about all sorts of that stuff. I don't want to get into that tonight. What I want to warn you about is the fact that you, if you live in Western Europe or in the United States, you are considered by the Talmudic Jews to be Amalekites. They'll deny that, but it's in their literature. It's in their, for lack of a better term, sermons. I've put up on Twitter, on X, some of these rabbis that actually say it. This is really bad, because where we are today with what's happening in the Middle East, you're beasts of the field that deserve to be annihilated. I'm sorry, but that's the fact. Yeah, the Noahide laws. And these people even talk about, again, going back to Amalek, because the Christians worship Jesus Christ, that's considered idol worship. Therefore, you're an Amalekite. Therefore, you deserve extermination because you worship an idol. And in the Noahide laws, you can be executed for worshiping an idol. Not if you don't worship Hashem, Yahweh, then you deserve annihilation. It's right there, which is not dissimilar from Sharia law, where you either convert to Islam or they can behead you. It's the same thing. As a matter of fact, they got that from the Talmud. The Islamists did, and from the Torah to some extent. The Talmud is where most of this stuff is really pushed. So I wanted to go over this tonight because this is a very serious situation. We could talk about the spies that have come here from this other place. Read between the lines again. The ship that was attacked in the 67 war, the U.S. ship. We can talk about there's a problem with dual citizenship. And the problem with dual citizenship is that you can't serve two masters. You'll love one and hate the other, or despise the one and love the other, right? That whole thing. It's called conflict of interest. No one in this country, in the United States, under our unfortunately totally broken Constitution, but no one in this country, if they're serving in a public office of any kind, be it elected or appointed or hired, whatever, should have dual citizenship with any other country, but especially not one that thinks that you should be destroyed. Totally annihilated, totally exterminated. I'm really beating around the bush here. I'm being very circumspect, very surreptitious, because I can't spell it out the way I want to. Now, somebody put up here, why don't you go to Rumble? Why don't you go to Odyssey? It just doesn't get, I'm hoping that here, at least the concept will get out, even if I can't spell it out to you the way I would like to. Obviously, I have more people that follow me here. They don't have to click and go over to Odyssey. I mean, I've done that in the past. I've come up on here and said, I put up a new video on Odyssey and here's the link. But I've gotten in trouble even for that when I've been too direct. YouTube has come on and said, no, you can't even refer to that on here because it violates our terms of service. Even the link does. I hope that you all can kind of read between the lines about what I'm telling you here. This thing in Israel, in the Middle East, is really bad. And there is no justification. I don't care what anybody says, whether the Palestinians really do believe that they should totally destroy Israel, and there's a big history there. People want to, as I talked about here at the beginning, the whole idea about who actually owned the land and who could sell it and who had the deeds and all that. That's all legalese. Okay, that's all to muddy the waters. And I've asked some people because one lady brought up this book that explained that, well, the Turks own the land and they sold it to the Israelis. Well, that's not entirely true. There may have been some tracts of land that were, but it really wasn't that way. And I've asked some people, I don't know if they'll do it. I've asked some people that I have contact with to investigate some of that if they can, and then to clarify it and really counter these absurd, laughable claims. I have friends that I follow. Some of these people I've never met, but I followed them on X for a long time. I've had a lot of respect for them. And in this case, they think, when they come out and they say it's okay to totally destroy a people because they voted in this Hamas group, I'm sorry, that's wickedness. And I'll just tell it to your face, and I've told them that's wicked, that's evil. I don't care if you are Jewish, I don't care if you're a Zionist Christian. You talk like that, and that judgment will come back around to you, because the Palestinians are not in the same category as Amalek. They're not. And even if Amalek, and like I said, there are even some exceptions that maybe the situation with Amalek really wasn't the way it was explained in Samuel or in Genesis. Okay. Uh, it's real easy to label somebody if they disagree with you, or even if they want to go to war with you. Um, there are other things about this whole situation again that I can't talk about. That how would you? And I talked about it the other day. The Mormons, when they got to Missouri in the 1830s, 1840s, they came in there and they were going to do a type of ethnic cleansing. They said, "This is our land. God gave it to you, and He's going to take all you away." That's basically the same thing. Okay. I put up on my X account Torah Jews and Torah Judaism and a lot of other things where Jews agree that these particular Jews agree that what's going on in Israel since 1947, 48 has been wrong. Stealing people's homes and taking them over. And anybody in any other country that thinks it's justified to go and evict somebody out of their home and then to take it over because God said it was your land 4,000 years ago, that's hypocrisy and that's plunder. And you're using God to justify your iniquity. I wanted to give you this background information so that you kind of have a little better feeling for it. Horse sense, I'm sorry I'm not going into any more detail here. You wanted me to really give a real good breakdown of all this, but I really can't put up, you'll know who I'm talking about, Adam's situation on X there, where on his channel, wherever that is, the video of the rabbi supposedly talking about that. And as I pointed out, the rabbi conveniently forgets that the Jews intermingled with the Herodian Edomites in the first century BC and first century up through the second century AD. So they have no right to say that they're ethnically pure. And then, as somebody pointed out here, a lot of these people that claim to be Jews have come from someplace else and really are not in the bloodline. There's nothing wrong with converting to Judaism. I don't have a problem with that. But converting to Judaism and being of the house of Israel are two different things as far as bloodline is concerned. And again, I can't get into a lot of detail here. I don't think any of you even read the Bible. Who are you talking to, Amber? What did I tell you? Amber Marie, what did I say about this? You got questions? Let's stick with the subject matter, okay? Okay. I talked about this situation being forced prophecy, most likely. I've talked many times over the years that the Bible is the op plan, the playbook, not just for the people that want to try to order their lives in a moral, decent way, but also the people that want to destroy and cause chaos. Both sides use this thing. Netanyahu thinks he's a messiah. As I pointed out several times, and I did this right recently on X, there was a coin that came out in 2017, I believe. It may have been 2018. There have been several of these, but this one showed a picture of Netanyahu and Trump on there as being the sons of light in a war with the sons of darkness. And here just recently, Netanyahu, that means God has given us to you. In other words, it's a form of a messianic title. He basically said that he and what he's doing to these people over there, they're the sons of light, Netanyahu and his followers, and that they're fighting the sons of darkness. And that is a twist and a lie. The real sons of darkness are a whole different group of people that actually, in my estimation, Netanyahu is a front man for. That's my take. Those Palestinians are not the sons of darkness. I'm not saying what they did was right on October 7th, but I'm also saying that truth is the first casualty of war, and we really don't know exactly everything that happened other than what I pointed out here a few minutes ago, that the Israeli army, the IDF, destroyed both hostages and Hamas. They just took them all out. Some people were caught in a crossfire. It was horrible. Those young people, those young 20-year-olds that were out there at that festival. I'm not excusing Hamas. And the Palestinians shouldn't be leaping for joy when innocent men, women, and children lose their lives. All right? That's just as evil, just as bad. I'm going to lose my battery here. People will say, you're just a Hamas supporter. No, I'm not. But I understand a lot more here than just to use pejoratives and name calling to justify murder. It's really all I have. Let's see. I usually try to answer off the chat on my computer, but let me just see what's going on here. We all need to use cognitive discernment, spiritual discernment too. You need to. God said, "Come, let us reason together as one man reason with another." That's cognitive, right? And then the other is spiritual discernment. Obviously, you don't do something to somebody else that you don't want done to you. So that goes to this whole situation that's happening in the Middle East. I will not justify anybody coming in and taking somebody else's home and saying that God gave this land to them thousands of years ago and we're just here to take it back. Sorry, it doesn't work like that. I don't care how you reason it through. And in the Old Testament, in several places, I'm not going to go through it tonight, the old Israelites were taken into captivity, spread around the world. Even the Judahites were, and they can't even keep track of their genealogy. During the Babylonian captivity, almost all of that was lost. They don't know who they are. And they mingled with Persians and Babylonians and Edomites. So their hands are not clean in this. They're not clean at all, even by their own standards. So basically what I'm saying here is that when you hear these people say that the Palestinians deserve to be totally annihilated because of Amalek, just remember that pejorative that they're using, Amalekite, also applies to people in the Western democracies, so-called democracies, especially white people. But they also use it for anybody who disagrees with the idea of the Hiram, the utter destruction of the Amalekites. They also call people Amalekites who disagree with Israel and who say they want to destroy Israel totally. And that's wrong too. Totally destroying people that are called Jews, that's wrong. As I pointed out, there are a lot of great rabbis and Jewish people that are out there right now saying what the Israeli Zionist government is doing is wrong. Okay? There are other ways to handle this, and it didn't have to go down this way. But they want the land, and they want, what did I talk about here about a week ago or so? I told you that they're just off the coast of the Gaza Strip. There is a gas reserve, and they want a pipeline to go from there up to Europe. This is economic, and they're using religious bigotry and hatred to accomplish it. And really, they've been doing it since 1947. Actually, earlier than that. This whole thing started actually in the 1800s. I'm not going to get into a religious discussion. I'm not going to talk about, how Christians are, sometimes it's referred to that they're the real Israelites. They're the ones that have been grafted in, replacement theology and that thing. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm going to go back to the two great commandments that are more important than the 613, which, by the way, one of the 613 commandments is that you wipe out the memory of Amalek. Really, that's one of the six. Think about that. When the Jewish people want to obey the 613 commandments, the mitzvot, one of those is that you will eradicate the memory of Amalek. And most of them interpret that as being that you kill them, that you murder them, not just that you have nothing to do with them. Is this anti-Jewish? It might be an anti-Jewish. I'm Semitic. How can I be anti-Semitic? But I can certainly call out my brother who's doing wrong, and I'm going to do it. I'm not saying that the people that run Israel are Semitic either. I'm not going to say that. They may have converted to their form of rabbinic Judaism. But as I explained to the person there on X, the Judaism that's practiced today is not the same as the religion of ancient Israel. And the modern state of Israel today is not ancient Israel redivivus. And God had nothing to do with it. You can say, well, that's your opinion, Roy. Okay. But I have a lot to back it up. One is, as I put out on X several times, and I've even put it on the community posts here on YouTube, is that Israel is one of the places where the striped people, okay, I'm talking between the lines here, hope you understand what I'm saying, people that will have that striped flag with all the colors in it, there's more of that in Israel than there is per capita almost than there is any other place. So if they're out there saying that they have a right to destroy Amalek, or people they consider to be Amalekites, well, unfortunately, the Israelis are less righteous than the people they want to destroy. So they're not actually obeying Torah. So they have no right to instigate or to invoke cherem, or the extermination of their enemies, because they do not, as a nation, follow Torah. They actually follow Sodom. That's correct. And of course, the book of Revelation, it's called Sodom, isn't it? It is. I don't want to get into eschatology. That's not my point tonight. My point tonight is, again, going back that calling somebody an Amalekite doesn't make it so. And because they're Amalekite doesn't necessarily mean that they should be exterminated. It does mean that you don't have anything to do with them. But I think that even goes too far based on what we know today about all of that. All right. Okay. I suppose there's no sense in belaboring this too far. This is very bad, this whole thing. I don't know how it's going to end up. All I can say is what I've said many, many times. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. Staying out of the way is standing in the holy place. When the scripture says, when you see the abomination and desolation, stand in the holy place. What that means is not that you have a place that's dedicated to God specifically. It just means separate. Holy Kodesh means separate, separate, right? Come out of her, come out of Babylon, that you do not partake in her plagues. In other words, separate. Stand in the holy place means separate. Get out of the way. That's all you can do, because these nations are too evil. Look what they're doing. Look at Director Ray. They're still saying white supremacists are the problem in the United States. Look what happened at the White House last week and all these other things. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to demonstrate. It isn't wrong. Even if you're Islamic, I don't mind that. But when you're out there destroying property and stuff, then that's a whole other thing. And of course, hurting people, that's a whole other thing, no matter what side you're on. Whether you're hurting a Jew because they're Jews, whether you're hurting a Christian because they're Christians, or whether you're hurting a Muslim because they're Muslims, it's all wrong. Yeah, I think there was a coup, John Murphy. You're right. I know. All righty. Well, let's see. We've been going for an hour. I don't want to belabor this, like I said. Thank you all for coming. Like I said, I know this probably doesn't seem to connect all the dots. I can't. Okay? I can't. I'm going to leave that to you. I'm going to leave that to you. If you have X, go to my X account, and you can go down through it, and you can see what my points on all this have been, okay, today. All right? Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Situational awareness on high. As I've been talking about for a long time, this may seem like it might escalate, or it might slowly go away. Either way, we don't want anything to do with anything that's going on here. You keep your own counsel. You stay close to the Spirit. You love God. You may not know who He is. I'm not even saying He's the God of the Bible, okay? I'm not even requiring that. You have a reverence for that eternal supreme being, however you view Him. I'm not going to say it. Okay, I won't go that far. And you love your fellow man as you love yourself. And you don't do it the way the Talmudic Jews do it, which is you love your fellow Jew. That's how they look at it, because in Genesis, where it says the beasts of the field, you, by the Talmudic Jews, are considered a beast of the field. They totally forgot, they totally put to rest the idea of Yom Kippur, when the high priest of Israel went into the Holy of Holies and prayed for the 70 nations of the earth at that time. Not for their destruction, but that the Israelites would be a blessing. See, the promise was to Abraham, not to Israel, and not to the concept of the modern state of Israel. It doesn't say who blesses Israel, God will bless. It didn't say that. It doesn't say that. The promise was to Abraham, who you bless, I will bless, and who blesses you, I will bless. It doesn't say Israel. That's another little twist, a little Talmudic rabbinic altering of what the actual written word is. Again, Paul was right on one thing, if he even wrote it. The scripture is of no private interpretation, but was written by men, holy men, who were moved upon by the Holy Spirit. You decipher the Hebrew the same way. And I do it for you every day that I bring Hebrew up. I show you how you break the words down, how the letters mean something, and you can understand a deeper meaning of Adam, for instance, by understanding the letters that are used to form the word. That's true Bible study. Not regurgitating what James Strong said, or Gesenius, or any preacher that's up on even me. If you have a question, take it the way I've explained it to you, that you go to the Hebrew. You can't do it to the Greek very easily, okay? The Greek is a problem. But go to the Old Testament. Look at the Hebrew. I'm not saying it's all right. There were political moves even there. I've explained one of them several times, which is that the tabernacle, the Ark of the Covenant, was never supposed to leave Shiloh. That it was a corruption that God told David to move it to Jerusalem. That was a political move by David to solidify his power. It had nothing to do with God. The blessing to Judah was, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver between his feet. Oh, well then it's always going to be Judah. No, because then there's the next phrase. Until Shiloh comes. What's Shiloh? Where the Ark of the Covenant was placed by the Moshite priests. And it's Ephraim. Shiloh is Ephraim, his descendant, not Judah. We've had thousands of years of lies told to us, ladies and gentlemen, and there are people, very evil people, that are using it for manipulating you and your emotions. Use those 2 commandments to judge everything you see. Put it to the test of the fruits. Does it honor God, and does it love its fellow man? And not just in words, but in deeds. There's nothing wrong with self-defense. I disagreed with one of the rabbis. It's on my X account. It's on my X line, where he was saying that you kill everything until peace comes. You kill everything until peace comes. If you can kill one person and peace comes, that's as far as you go. It's proportionate. If you have to kill off a whole race to make peace come, that's proportionate. And I totally disagree. There's another way. But if you want to plunder and steal, you'll make an argument like that. All right, everybody. I've pontificated enough. This has been both a political discussion and, to some extent, a religious, spiritual discussion. But it's hard to separate those today, especially with this situation in the Middle East. Unlike even the Ukraine-Russian war, this goes to the heart of religion, politics, the twisting of history, and people demanding that they have rights based upon some supposed covenant made 4,000 years ago, which was broken by the very people that claim it today. Therefore, that original contract is null and void. By the way, that brings up one more thing, because they'll say, well, God promised it to them forever, forever. Well, if that were the case, we got some problems, because God took it away from them more than once. And more than that, the word for forever is olam, and it doesn't mean eternity. It just means a long period of time. That's all it means, a long period. Y'all take care out here.